the more the game grows, there's going to be competition everywhere. I don't think it's, it's important to really emphasis on your own league in the NWSL, but now the growth of the game, there's always going to be competition everywhere.
We are absolutely jazzed to be joined by Arsenal legend, former Bay FC defender, Jen Beattie, friend of the show. Welcome back.
What's up,
Thanks for having me.
You look good. You're rocking a kit. You got the memo, but it's not yours.
No, it's not, but I think I've kind of low-key always wanted to be a number 10, so I just went for this one.
Why do defenders always want to be up top? They really believe in their soul that they deserve to be scoring them goals.
I mean, she scored goals.
Yeah, all them headers, bro. Aerial goals and headers.
Team. She's done it all. But now you say goodbye. I mean, it's been a big emotional week. You announced your retirement from the game. Congratulations. I mean, what a journey and what a career you've had. But why now? Why retirement now?
Thank you. No, I really appreciate it. Look, I guess it's not a decision I made overnight. It's something that I was kind of thinking about for a long time, but I just felt like right now it felt like the right time. I'd been doing broadcasting for a number of years now, and I was getting so fulfilled doing that, and I ultimately just didn't feel at my best anymore. I was ready for what's next, and I'm so excited for the next chapter.
Oh, and you don't have to do 2-a-days and exercise every day anymore. Is it exciting to be on this side of the camera?
Yeah, look, I've been getting into Pilates a little bit, been kind of enjoying that side of it. But no, you're totally right. I think it's so hard, and it's the best job in the world and super competitive. But I'm kind of excited to maybe look at exercise a little bit differently and do it from more an enjoyment perspective, but definitely ready to have some fun.
That sounded Greek to me. I don't know about that. Enjoyment and exercise together?
I mean, just having fun with it, too. But you said you've already gotten into it. You have a podcast, so does that mean we could potentially see you calling more games, talking more footy on the studio side of things?
Yeah, man, are there any jobs going? Or, yeah,
right to the camera. Right to the camera. Get that gig.
100%. Broadcasting is something I'm hugely passionate about. I think the women's game at the minute is just going on to new levels, and to be a part of it, I think even as a player, to fulfill that, growing the game and really have that responsibility. And you see the exposure now and all the different networks covering it, and I would love to be a part of it. It's something that, it's the closest adrenaline I think I'll ever get to playing 90 minutes as well, when that part's going live and you're ready for it. I'll miss that from playing, and I think broadcasting's the next thing, and I absolutely love doing it. I'm ready for it. And yeah, it's the next chapter, hopefully. Now
that you're retired, you could take a look back and sort of see the game from a bird's eye view. When you played in Europe, and you played for my Arsenal, thank you so much for winning so many trophies. I mean, legend. Now that you're able to sort of look at it and look at where the women's game has come in Europe, look how far it's come. In particular, Arsenal, they're playing so many more matches now at the Emirates. We're talking about jam-packed 60,000 people coming to see a women's football match. Talk about that growth that you've seen now, that you were a part of for a lot of that as well.
Oh, that's something that, I'm so proud to have still been a part of it come the end. I think anyone my age that's still in the game now or going to retire, we played in front of no one, or we played semi-pro or even amateur when I first came into the game. So I'll never forget watching the Euros final at Wembley, England playing Germany and winning, and that kind of being the turning point for the game in England. The games and attendances after that just went huge, and I was so lucky to be a part of it. But no, the growth of the game, the investment, the development of us as players being professional and really seeing the level really up. I know the US national team have been successful out here for so many years, right? So the game's another level out here, but in England, 2022 was a huge turning point. So it's so proud to have been part of big games at Emirates. Almost every home game is at the Emirates now for Arsenal, which is huge, and it's credit to the club and FAs and associations really backing the game now. And it's only going one way.
For those at home confused why she's talking so much about England, but she's got a Scottish accent, it is a little confusing. No, Scottish international, but you spent a majority of your career in England, but you played everywhere, right? With Scotland, of course, England, France, Australia, and then you ended your career here in America in the NWSL and Bay FC. But
kit you're wearing.
Of course, I had to rep for her.
Very
I had to rep for her. When you think about all these different countries that you played in and all these different leagues, you tend to, when you travel as a fan or as a player, you pick up little souvenirs, whether it be tattoos or friends that you make along the way. But in your football arsenal, what did you pick up from these different countries that you've added to your game throughout your career?
Wow, yeah, great question. So many different things. I think the biggest thing for me straight away that comes to mind is Montpellier. For a kid from Glasgow, I just moved to England, but to going down to the south of France, learning a whole new language, culture was completely different. I was so far out of my comfort zone.
What's the French accent sound like with a Scottish accent wedged in there?
Terrible.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But yeah, that just being out of your comfort zone. And I was only 22 at the time. I was young. That was one of the hardest things I've ever done. And to go from England to France and really loved the style of play in France. It was amazing. That very much possession-based football. And I think when I moved to Man City, that really helped me massively. That kind of style of play, Pep Guardiola was setting the tone of the technical ability. So when I came back to England, the technical side of stuff was really what moved me to the sort of next level in my career, I'd say. And then, of course, coming out to Bay and living in California, I think I really learned the mentality out here. I think I will say Americans are mentality monsters, super positive, really work so incredibly hard, never moan, and that was probably the biggest thing I took away from American culture. So kudos to American mentality.
All my Scottish friends hate it when I'm not even that positive of a guy, but I'm just like, nah, everything's going to work out. And they're like, who are you, dude? that's not the way we do things here. Let me ask you a question, because you do have that experience you just mentioned, Montpellier, right? Australia, you mentioned. You've gotten to see the game, right? In Europe, and you got to see it in America. There's a big conversation now with a lot of NWSL stars starting to get poached by a lot of these European clubs. A lot of these big names are having to make a decision you wouldn't have had to make a few years ago, where now the draw of the Champions League, the draw of the money now that's being invested and put into the game in Europe is starting to draw some of those superstars away. Talk about the comparison, and how can NWSL stop that tide? How can NWSL continue to rise and maybe not have so much competition in Europe?
Yeah, I mean, but I think you're always, the more the game grows, there's going to be competition everywhere. I don't think it's, it's important to really emphasis on your own league in the NWSL, but now the growth of the game, there's always going to be competition everywhere. I think the finances are obviously being massively spoken about, and they're being pulled from the top leagues everywhere. Like Naomi Gurma is a perfect example of being in the headlines lately. But no, I think keep investing in the clubs, keep investing in the sort of style of play and the philosophy, because I think the pull to Europe right now is Champions League. That's why if you see the top American players, they're going to Europe to play in the Champions League. That's what they want to win. That's the draw. They've seen ex-US national team players go and do it and go and win it. But for me, it's continue to invest in clubs, continue to make the game competitive as you can out here. And the NWSL is only going one way as well. I think it was, an absolute honour for me to experience that for a year at BFC as well. And what a privilege it was to play in the league and experience California as well.
What would you recommend for a young player, like NWSL versus WSL, if they have the choice to do both right now, start early in their career? Where would you recommend?
Or if you had to pick, right? You're about to go pro. Where are you going?
Honestly, I loved being part of a European club as a kid, but I think that the best thing I ever did was, of course, I'm tied to Arsenal. I was there for a long period of time, but it's so important to experience different cultures. Don't sort of be stuck in, no, I need to be at this club, I need to do this. But you as a player might suit different styles of play, might suit different philosophies. And I think that's important to really sit down with managers, sit down with coaches, sit down with the owners and really see what the plan is. How can they develop you? Every player is so different. For me, I'm so happy with my path and what I did with experiencing different leagues, different coaches, different huge clubs. And that for me is the biggest thing. Figure out what kind of player you want to be, style, physicality, everything. Chat to coaches as much as you can and figure that out in the process.
Yeah, the answer we were looking for was America. But yeah, we'll accept that. What do you think about the way the game is developed in the women's game? You talked about how in Europe it's a lot more technical. In NWSL, I think the rub against a lot of NWSL clubs and a lot of American women's football matches is that it's a lot of athleticism you see. You don't always see the tactics. Do you see that changing, especially in your year that you played here?
Oh, definitely. And I think it is the narrative that is given to NWSL. But I think my experience with BFC and how they wanted to change that, I experienced that massively. I think Albertine Montoya was so big on technical capacity and passing possession and style of play and rondos every day and that kind of ability when it came to football. And I saw that change hugely. I think what he tried to instill as a club and Bay Collective is that new process that are really trying to emphasis down on that. I think Spirit are another team that, employing Spanish coaches that are coming across here and really trying to change that narrative. No, I fully believe that it's definitely the narrative that NWSL has, but I really felt it changing, and I think BFC was massive. That's why I went there. That's what it sold me to kind of come and play, and I enjoyed that aspect of it.
Albertine Montoya did a really good job at Bay of implementing a style, sticking with it, having confidence in you guys to execute it, and they made the playoffs. I mean, they did it. As a first-year expansion year, it's pretty impressive, pretty good to see. And you personally went out on a high note, winning an award this year with Bay FC, the 2024 Lauren Holliday Impact Award for your charity and your
that
service.
Puffer, by the way?
That
Puffer goes crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. And you got a picture with Lauren Holliday and the commish. This is cool. But this is so much of your charity work and not your first award by any means for what you do off the pitch and all your work with breast cancer and awareness. Why has that been such a pillar of your playing career as a footballer?
Yeah, great question again. I think when you go through something really difficult, you realize kind of there's things a lot bigger than football. And I think one thing I've always been so aware of is the platform that football gives you, and kind of using that for greater good and things bigger than yourself, and being part of something that's bigger than yourself. And that was exactly that. When I went through the breast cancer treatment, I knew that the scariest thing for me was I didn't really have anyone to talk about it. It was COVID. I was away from friends, away from family. So being able to build a community within that meant a lot to me. And I was 29 with no family history, and going through that scared, every part of me. So I wanted to kind of pass on the education thing. And when I came out to BFC, that I didn't want that to change. I wanted that work to continue, and really showing the sort of, not to use the word impact, but it has on people, and to use it in a positive light just meant a lot. And it's something that matters a lot to me. I think it's an incredible thing to do that the NWSL does. Lauren Holliday was an absolute legend. Meeting her that weekend of the final in Kansas City was amazing. Getting to know her as a person, just an even better human than everyone probably even knows already. So that was hugely special to me. And again, I think it's something that the NWSL does incredibly well with highlighting things that players are doing, because we're footballers first and foremost, or ex-players now, but we're people at the end of the day. We're humans, and we go through stuff, but to talk about it is great.
We know you want to get into the media side of things and the broadcasting, and we want you here. Come on over. But are you going to stay involved in a community outreach or anything like this? Like, what can we expect from that side of your life? Yeah,
I would love to. I think, working for cancer research back in the UK meant a lot to me. And then obviously Pink Ribbon Good was the charity I worked with in California. And that is something that I never want to end. It was something that, was a huge part of my life when I went through it. And, wherever I am in the world, whether it's New York or London, bopping back and forth, it's something that I definitely want to, whether it's speaking about it publicly or going to events and working with charities. I think the more awareness we can talk about, the better.
Yeah, my wife is actually a nurse at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Hospital. She's an oncology nurse. They do a lot with breast cancer. I'll link you guys up, because I know there's a lot of stuff here in New York as well. I do have one last question for you. I know we have to run, but you're out on a night, Glasgow, you're having a good time. It's now 2 a.m. The three of us are feeling a little wobbly.
Yeah.
We go with you to a deep fry spot.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and I know this is huge in Glasgow. What are we putting in our lunch box? What are you telling us to go for?
This is a fun question to end on. Okay, I was always chips and cheese back in the day, but now I'm vegan. I don't really eat cheese. But I was straight up chips. And
just
ketchup.
Straight chips and cheese?
I'm sorry, fries.
Fried? No, we know what chips are. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, I wasn't really one for the kebab and the doner meat.
What about Pizza Crunch?
Pizza Crunch was in my high school days.
Yeah.
I used to get a meal deal Pizza Crunch.
Do you know what that is?
No.
Could you explain to her what Pizza Crunch is?
Pizza Crunch is deep fried pizza slice. Yeah, we're super healthy. And
Bro,
My stomach hurts thinking
they
about
legitimately
this.
take a pizza, batter it, and deep fry it.
Wow.
Yeah, or a deep fried Mars bar.
Mars bars.
We'll go for that.
That's the fun way to go. Yeah.
Basically anything deep fried.
Yeah.
It's a super healthy.
But I'm going kebab.
I'll take
I'm going
that.
kebab all day.
Do you guys know Iron Brew?
Iron Brew, invented in New York, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They sell
What
it
is
in the
it?
Latin market. I grew up drinking it. It's called Cola Champagne. Same exact thing.
Invented in New
Yeah.
York. Fact of the day. Okay,
How about
as a
that?
Scot, I'm still learning about it. Next up at Wee Whiskey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, now you're in New York. You get to try it all. I'm sure take you on
I
a
got
good tour.
you.
Okay, we'll go for
We got to try Cola Champagne so you can see it's exactly Iron Brew.
up
It's
for it.
crazy.
Let's go.
Jen, thanks and congrats. We're excited to see what happens next in your career.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.